you, right? Mm-hmm. You know how you remember something that it's like it happened a long time ago, but you remember it so clearly, like it's just happened in the moment? The frequency to that memory is high. Do you not think it's going to deplete you of energy and kind of like be this voice at the back of your head that's preventing you from moving forward? It's always pulling you back.
Yeah.
So if you have to, like, make a list of the things where the frequency might be too high on areas of your life that aren't serving you. And you can go through a visualization process of like literally turning down the volume on a dial to turn down the frequency of all of those things that could be affecting you.
Yeah. All right, so first of all, we're on my white couch, and I have you're a mother of two beautiful children, Elijah and India. If you're listening, go back to class. If you're listening, where did you get a device where you're listening to podcasts? First of all, you're what, 5 and 2?
5 and 2.
Yeah, okay, so they shouldn't have those. But what is the likelihood you would ever buy a white couch having 2 children?
I dream of it. But every day I'm taking the cushions off of the couch already. And we have just like, I gave up on the idea of a nice couch or having any nice things or any nice furniture.
At all. That's
it. So I'm waiting till they get older.
Like older, like they graduate high school and move out?
They have to leave the house. It's the only way.
I'm 40 and it still gets dirty every 2 days. So don't think that because they leave, you're going to be able to have a pristine white couch. My friends come over, like I think you probably track something on here. You're wearing like mountain boots or something and you just like smear it across here.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. For today, it's beautiful. It will be ruined in the next month. I'm so excited that you're here. And this is our very first episode of the show. And there's nobody I would have rather had as the very first guest on the White Couch than you.
Goosebumps. And I'm just so proud of you. And the second you talked to me about this idea, everything inside me was like, yes, this is it. This is your magic zone. So thank you.
You're so freaking sweet. I love you. There are certain people that just like give you life when you're around them.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely one of those people for me. And actually I would, it's okay. So let's talk about how we met.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were at a friend's house. We were at Craig and Sarah's house. So shout out to Craig and Sarah. Shout out to Craig and Sarah.
What's up?
And it was really funny because we didn't really get a chance to talk.
No.
Like were you there with Peter?
No, we just met outside.
Okay.
Peter was also a friend. Drew Poorhead. Shout out to Drew.
Shout out to Drew.
Yeah, it's because of him. For many reasons, I'm just introduced to so many incredible people. And then I found you closer to the end of the night.
Yeah.
And thank goodness you said something.
Yeah, but we didn't get to talk. Like we didn't get to like drop in. And I remember from the little short conversation we had that I'm like, this person is amazing. Like I need more of her in my life, but like we didn't get to actually connect. And then I feel like you followed me on Instagram or something. And then it was in the DMs. It's like, we have to connect. Like we have to chat. Am I remembering right?
A voice memo. You left me a voice memo and I was like, oh, it's done. It's done. I need to know this person. When are we meeting? And then we had our first date.
And so our first date was because then we were going to a party at Vishen's house. Shout out Vishen. This is just a name, episode 1, the name dropper episode. So then we're going to a party at Vishen's. And so you and I decide we're going to grab dinner beforehand. And not only do we have just this amazing soul connection, but then we found out we're both born in 1980.
Yes.
Okay. So I know I look 73 and Mona looks 18, but we were born in the same year and hip hop. Hip hop was our thing.
What a surprise. You dropped the biggest bomb too, like your past with hip hop, being a performer.
Me being a former rapper. I feel like I'm still kind of, I don't think you can ever take that out of somebody.
I am going to pamper you until you take me out one night and you start like rhyming. I don't know what I have to do. Drop a beat.
I will just do, if you learn to beatbox, could you imagine the two of us on the road?
It's on my list, actually.
Like the brown person and the Hindu together doing a rap thing? That would be next level.
My DJ name was going to be Brown Sugar. Of course.
Oh my God, that is amazing. Do you remember the D'Angelo song, Brown Sugar?
Of course I do.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's how naive I was. I didn't do any drugs growing up. Like I was the only rapper you've ever met that my whole crew, they were like drinking and smoking weed. I didn't do any of it. So when I heard Brown Sugar, I'm like, oh, he's talking about a black woman. He thinks this black woman is brown sugar. She's this sweet black woman. He's talking about weed.
I was going to say, wait, he's not?
You didn't know either?
No.
Dude, Brown Sugar is a song about weed.
Brown Sugar's like the song that gets you in your
Brown
like
sugar, babe.
Totally.
I guess high for love, don't know how to be.
I have no idea. I'm the girl that never smoked pot, so I guess how would I know?
So okay, so we're going to get into all those things, but I have a question.
Yeah.
So I love to ask this question to people. What is the first like hip hop song you remember either buying a CD or buying a mixtape or hearing on the radio? Like what's the first one you can actually remember?
Oh my goodness. The Far Side album was probably like a really big one for me.
Yes.
And then Gangstar.
Gangstar, what?
Yeah.
Primo and Guru, if you guys, this is like a big deal that she knows who these people are. You're seriously, so wait, so were you in Toronto at the time?
So I was in Toronto at the time, and two of my best friends, you actually remind me very much of my best friend in Toronto, Jeff Brandman, also Jewish.
Nice. Is he Jewish like me, or he's like a
legit.
Real Jew? He's legit. See, I'm not legit. I don't get to claim it. But okay, a real Jew that you know in Toronto.
So you guys would hit it off. So they started running these underground hip hop shows. The guy that I was dating at the time was like super into hip hop, so much so that he would like quiz me on what DJ was spinning in a song. Like, I had to know that kind of stuff.
Just by hearing the song?
Just by hearing the song. Like,
oh my gosh.
Who's this? Yeah, and it was really annoying. But then we started going to these hip-hop shows. I had to sneak in. It was this little, like, after-hours club in Toronto. And all of these hip-hop stars would come and perform. And it wasn't just the music. It was, like, the beatboxing. It was the dancing. It was the breakdancing.
All the elements.
All the elements of hip-hop. And I was like, oh, my God, this is everything. And, you know, like any 18, 19-year-old, there's a lot of shit happening and lots of changes and everything. So and that cliche statement that like hip hop kind of saved me, It was really, I can't imagine having gone through that time of my life, not having that as an outlet.
It's huge. Hip hop's been a big part of my life as well. Wait, hold on. Now I'm just remembering something. Did you have a story about something with Jeru the Damager?
So Jeru the Damager was performing one night, and everybody, it was like so cool back then because the stage wasn't up and over there. Like all the artists would come hang out in the crowd and be with the people. And Jeru is like standing over there and he looks at me and I'm like, oh gosh, okay, what's going to happen? So I start walking over. A girlfriend of mine was like right next to him. And he gave me some comment, and right after the comment was like, you know, will you marry me? And it was like, he was like, no, really, tonight. Will you marry me tonight?
And you guys have been together ever since.
No, have I told you the Craig Mack story?
No, there's a Craig Mack story too. Okay, so first of all, we're going to have to put links in the show notes to all these people because nobody, I guarantee there's like 90% of people listening to this. Jeru, the what? Craig, what the? So you went from one Craig to another. This is, so what happened with Craig Mack? Flavor in your ear. If you want to look up Craig Mack, flavor in your ear. But what happened with Craig Mack?
So I think we saw him perform one night, and it was that really catchy song, Flavor in Your Ear. Yeah. That night I went home and I had a dream that I was standing in like an arena, kind of like in a boxing arena where the light is over you and like everything else is black. And I walk up to Craig Mack and we're actually getting married. But here's the thing. Not only did I have that dream once, I can probably name 2 repetitive dreams that I've ever had in my life. And that's one of them.
Really?
And if you look up Craig Mack, God bless him, you know.
He's not known for being the George Clooney of rap. He's kind of more like the George Clooney bottom of his shoe after he steps and stuff of rap.
Repetitive dream.
What do you think that means? Or can we do a little dream analysis here? Can we have an intervention for you?
If somebody wants to give me, Mona, did you know?
Nuncio, do you know anything about dreams? Are you can you be a dream interpreter for us?
I'm not particularly an expert, but I can definitely interpret a lot of things that are going on in the brain.
Yeah,
right?
Craig Mack especially, I think that's a big one to think about.
Maybe at the time I had like a fear of being in the spotlight.
Oh, interesting.
I had to like go deep. Right
well, so okay. So let's talk a little bit about like what you do now. So you are a celebrity wellness expert, and you have so much knowledge. Like your Instagram kills me with the stuff you share. Like really, it's so holistic because it's not just like the top level surface like BS that a lot of people share. No disrespect to people who share BS.
Totally.
A little bit of disrespect to people who share BS. but your stuff is really really good. And I mean, and you work with Will Smith. You work with Julianne Hough, which. Still, you have not hooked me up with you.
I'm working on it.
You're not trying hard enough, and I'm trying not to take it personally. And my therapist said that the healing from that trauma is we're close, we're almost there. But you've worked with her. You've been on Red Table Talks with Will and Jada. You've done just so many amazing things in this whole space. But if I were to have met you 15 years ago. Now you look like you're the pinnacle of health, inner and outer health, and you're brilliant and you're wise and you're vivacious and you're vibrant and you're doing all this work. Take me back 15, 20 years ago. What did life look like for you?
Completely different person. And that's not really the uncommon thing. I would just say I've had to go through a lot of shedding. Legit becoming a new person. I'm a late bloomer. I'm proud to be a late bloomer. But at that time in my life, so my parents had gotten a divorce after 35 years of marriage, and that just kind of spiraled a bunch of things happening. So at that time, I had broken up with a boyfriend, moved out with my mom. I had to take responsibility financially with my mom a little bit, just emotionally as well, and just never feeling like I fit in. So I'm half Indian, half Danish. Growing up, my parents taught me neither language. So going to any family event, we could never really understand anything. Right?
Interesting. Did you feel like you weren't accepted by one side or the other, or were you just kind of you're in purgatory and didn't really think about it too much?
No, we could never connect. Like, I could never really just sit there and be part of what was happening. I was just sitting there, not being part at all, right? So there was that growing up. They put me into French immersion. That created another divide because my French was better than my English at one point, which made no sense living in Toronto.
Right.
And this was just a feeling that just like perpetuated growing up. I never felt like I fit in. So what I did was just always try to overcompensate. Tried to be the best, worked really hard at school. I fast-tracked high school, fast-tracked university. And I fast-tracked getting a job in the beauty industry. So I somehow landed working as a makeup artist for a bunch of luxury cosmetic companies and worked my way up to sales and education. So I'm the person that went around to all the stores that trained all the beauty ambassadors on like how to do makeup, how to make a sale, about the brand philosophy. I did makeup for fashion shows. I was able to travel the world and do makeup for celebrities and stuff like that. So on paper, it looked amazing.
I'm like, that's an incredible life. And that's something I had no idea about you until today, until you started making fun of my farmer's tan and telling me that you should bring bronzer over for me. I had no idea that you did this. But yeah, this sounds like an amazing like adventure that anybody would kill to have. So how was that? How was it for you?
Well, having an Indian dad, I wasn't going to be a doctor or a lawyer. So I'm like, let me just get to the top of this industry, see what I can make happen. And I got there, but I got burnt out, like typical corporate scenario. I was eating out late. I had debilitating anxiety. I was about 40 pounds heavier. And this was all after having 2 heart surgeries for anxiety.
Wait, the heart stuff was related to anxiety?
Yeah. Looking back, I can say that not one doctor at the time asked me about my anxiety, what was happening in my life, the fact that my heart palpitations started the exact same year that my parents got a divorce and my breakup, and we transitioned into a new house and all of these changes in my life. Really just like suffering from a broken heart.
Yeah.
Go through these bouts of like debilitating heart palpitations, so much so that I would faint.
And you were like on beta blockers?
I was on beta blockers.
Which I had to look up. Those are not the same as hater blockers. I thought they were the same.
Hater blockers probably would help me a lot more.
That would have been way better for you, yeah.
Yeah.
So you had to be on this, and you're how old then at this point?
So I was in my early 20s. At this point.
Holy crap, Mona.
Yeah, so, and this is a surgery, it wasn't open heart, but like you can see your heart on a screen, wires going at you, they're injecting you with different things to try to induce these palpitations.
Yeah.
And so looking back, I really think that the body's kind of like a metaphor for things that happen in your life. For example, like obviously if you sprain your hamstring from running, it's from the run. But if you have a pain in your back or a weight on your shoulders or something, it's like, what is the pain that's happening in my heart? The pain that was happening emotionally at that time, I just was so unwilling to invest in. Instead, it was like, go harder, be hardcore, go get the job, put the face on every day, right? God, as a makeup artist, like I was literally wearing a mask every day going to work. And that was like perfectly representative of my life at that time.
Holy crap. Okay. So then, so you have the surgeries, and then when do you, how do you start getting into this place where you're actually taking more responsibility for the interconnection between your body, your mind, your emotions? Like where did you even get introduced to that? Cause I know you grew up on an ashram, which by the way, you got to clear this up for me. It's on an ashram, not in an ashram.
On an ashram.
That also blew my mind.
In an ashram. Yeah, it's a spiritual center.
Okay, so where was this? Was this in Toronto or no?
So my dad would take us to this ashram, this beautiful ashram in Val-Morin, which is outside of Montreal.
Okay.
And he would take us there every summer because my mom suffers from debilitating autoimmune disease, so rheumatoid arthritis. So I've only ever known my mom to be completely deformed, right? So it stole her from me. But with my father's insight around Ayurveda, he would take us there every summer, and I would see her heal. I would see the impact on my dad's, stress reducing and stuff like that. Of course, I threw this all out the window when I started partying and became a teenager and fashion, all that stuff. So I just felt the call to kind of go back to my roots. So when I was in the corporate world, something that I made a tradition was go to the same organization, so the Shivananda organization, but they have an ashram in the Bahamas.
This is the one you were just telling me about.
Exactly.
I was looking at the website. It looks amazing. I want to go like yesterday.
Yeah, and ashram living is incredible. I always say it's the ultimate wellness retreat. You have to go with an open mind.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't seem too appealing because they have an insanely strict schedule. You're up at 5:30 in the morning, you're meditating for half an hour, you're sitting and chanting, you're sitting in circle in community, you're doing 2 hours of yoga and breath work and visualization, you're eating in community, no screens, only to be repeated again at night.
Yeah.
But the magic in this environment where everything is designed to set you up, to put you in a place of peace and relaxation, which I think we all need more of.
Hell yes.
So that it forces you to close down all the tabs, which ultimately lead you to dealing with self. And so I think that I was kind of building my muscle back in that world, going there as a retreat, doing the corporate time, but then I just hit rock bottom and I said, screw it. This is at the time I met Craig, my husband, who's so supportive, and just said, look, go. So I decided to become a yoga teacher. I went back to the ashram. I lived there for 4 to 5 weeks, and became a meditation teacher. And the inflammation legitimately just like fell off my body. Wow. I wasn't dieting. I wasn't going hardcore at the gym, which is what I was doing prior to getting there.
Which is what people will tell you to do. Like, go hardcore, right?
Yeah, I was on the Atkins diet. It works for some. I just don't think dieting in general is healthy long term.
Yeah.
And I really just think that, if you've ever been to a yoga class, this idea of moving energy is a really big piece. People will get up and just have like these emotional releases from their body. That combined with my heritage, going back to my roots. My mother was actually pregnant, living on an ashram with me.
No way.
Yeah. So what's crazy about all of this and like me racing to get to the corporate world to make my dad proud, he said that he was so proud of me when I became a yoga teacher. The only time.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's
so where did the story come from? Is it just being Indian? Like you feel like that's the thing? Or like, did you misunderstand? Like where did that come from where you thought you had to strive in order to make him proud?
I would say like the attention always came when I did really well in school, which is great. I think that was, healthy. It made me ambitious. Having an older brother, my brother's 10 years older and he's a lawyer. A lot of my cousins are all doctors. But I would say inevitably when my parents split up, I felt this like, oh my God, I got to step up. I got to take care of myself. I never want to rely on a husband because what if my husband leaves? Right? I never wanted to depend on anyone else but me. It was like building up this shell around me and I was comfortable there.
Yeah.
I'm an introvert, hardcore introvert.
Same.
So it felt very cool for me to just be in this space and like just go make it happen. But I was putting on a facade. I was just ignoring like my joy and I became a master at avoiding the vulnerability of everything.
Ooh, okay. So that's a big one. And I think everybody struggles with that at some point or another and to different degrees. And even now, I feel like we're both pretty open with the world about stuff. And it doesn't mean there aren't still things that feel a little vulnerable to dive into and to share. What's something that you feel like you've shared maybe in the last year or two that like you would have never shared 10 years ago?
Well, let's make that distinction though too. Yeah. Like vulnerability, it doesn't mean that I didn't get uncomfortable. If I got uncomfortable and that got me closer to a goal, then great, I went for it. I sought out those opportunities.
Yeah,
you got it.
Yeah.
Still ambitious. Yeah. But being vulnerable and letting people see my true color, that was the challenging part. So I would say the one thing that I've shared most this year, maybe it was like the result of turning 40 and just like stepping into my power. I feel so much more confident as a woman getting older. But my happiest place on the planet is like chanting at an ashram. These like Sanskrit beats chanting at an ashram, the stuff that my dad would play in the mornings getting dressed for work every day, right? Yeah. I would never say that to somebody, right?
So have you actually shared yourself chanting? Like have you actually chanted?
No.
Interesting.
Here we go.
Can you run the chanting track that we talked about earlier? That's really interesting. So when you think about like sharing with the world that you're into to chanting and things like that, what's the fear that people would say about that?
Well, the sound of my voice. But I would say the fear is the reason you chant at the ashram is one, to call in a deity, so the power of a deity that you are igniting or welcoming into your world, but also the power of your voice. And when we think about our chakras, it's clearing our throat chakra. And isn't it funny that this is my voice, what I'd closed off, right? My expression, my meaning, being vulnerable, it was locked up tight. I stored everything in here. So much so that in yoga, even right now, I could feel like this constriction, right? So chanting was always a way to liberate that. So I guess the way that I do chant now is I sing the same chant to my kids.
Wait, do they get into the chanting as well? Will they do it?
Yeah. They know it, memorized and everything.
Oh my God, I got to see that. I want to see and hear that at some point because they are adorable. I would love to see them doing the chanting.
Yeah, they can chant some Sanskrit.
That is okay. So it's such an amazing thing you said because I work with a lot of women as well, and the whole like your voice being silenced, whether it's family, whether it's family of origin, or it's cultural, or it's actually them being with men who have essentially said like you need to stay quiet, your opinion doesn't matter here, things like this. Do you see that a lot in the work you're doing with people, where people women especially just feel like they can't fully self-express for some reason? Yeah,
I would say, and as a result, everything becomes internalized, right? We're never really taught free form expression, right? As per our individuality. So one of the exercises that I do, because I really believe in this foundation, something my dad would say all the time is, what are you accumulating? Accumulating too many toxic thoughts, emotions, unsaid conversations, unfulfilled expectations, things that you wanted to do that you never have. It accumulates somewhere in your body. Fear, anxiety, resentment, worry, stress goes somewhere if you're not letting it go. And most of us aren't taught to voice our opinions, right? Or maybe we're too scared for fear what people are going to say or what they'll think.
For sure.
So can you imagine spending your entire life getting to your 40s, 50s, 70s with all of this inside of you, right? So one of the visualizations that I do with my clients is I take them through kind of like a best self snapshot. Like when they feel the best in their body, a time in their life when everything felt at peace, at ease, joyful. And most people will always go back to a picture of themselves as a child. And notice I said picture. They can't remember it, but they saw the picture of them in that moment where it's like, oh yeah, I looked really happy there.
That's really interesting. Well, you know what? I have an interesting thing about this. I keep meaning to do this, and you just reminded me I need to do this. I have this weird block where I can't remember what brought me joy as a kid.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't even have any memories before I was 6 or 7 years old, and I don't know why. I don't remember anything traumatic happening, but I don't have any memories, and I wonder about that. I don't have that picture in my head, and I want to call my mom and just be like, hey, what brought me joy as a kid? And my guess is that it's probably being the class clown or the center of attention. But I'd love to know that, because I think that's such a big thing, and you're hitting on this. Is I think we just lose track of the simplicity of what brought us joy, and maybe that it's irresponsible. We can't just play. We can't have fun just doing nothing. What's your view on that, on play and activating more joy in your own life?
Well, I think something that you and I see is that when we can help people unleash their creativity, it's when they tune into this vibration. So I speak about vibration. So high vibration is happiness, joy, creativity, feeling peace. Low vibration, stress, anxiety, worry, fear, right? So when we help people kind of tap into those emotions, all of a sudden creativity is unleashed. And I think that for me, especially as a child, my parents were great, but it's just not something that they fostered, right? So I would just think if I could go back to myself as a child and really have the cheerleader in the corner to say no, keep being creative, keep using your voice, keep singing, keep doing all of those things and sing louder, right? Instead of oh, what are people going to think? What are people going to say, right? Instead of honoring my being different, then I think that the journey would have looked much different. And it's not that I'm not grateful for the gifts now, but I encourage everyone, just go soul seeking. If you can't remember a time then, you obviously are very in tune with that sense of self, the you that was a class clown, right? Play with that. So if you're going to daydream, what would that person do on a perfect day? Not the you now, the person that you is your spirit child, right?
Yep. Yeah, and he'd be performing, he'd be making people laugh. I mean, it's really, that's the reason for this show. This show is really for me to get back in touch with my joy, because I don't know about for you, but for me, as my business has continued to grow, sometimes I lose track of what I'm building and why I'm building it, because there's team to manage, and there's business stuff, and there's clients, and there's all these other things, and it's very easy to start getting detached from why you did the thing originally. So instead of trying to force myself to find all of the love for my business that I had in the beginning, which I still love, but it's just, again, things just happen and it grows and you start losing sight. I'm let me just tap back into what I know makes me joyful. And what makes me joyful is spending time with people like you and having great conversations and being able to learn and to laugh and all those things. So I think, whatever nugget you can remember of what brought you joy, just find some way to do that. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be a production, right? Just little ways in your day to bring that joy out.
Well, people talk about this idea of mindfulness as being so serious, right? Sit in a corner, sit cross-legged, meditate for 30 minutes, feel the stress. No, mindfulness is any act of being mindful so that you are present when all the other thoughts shut down. And when you are present, it's that's when you can reawaken those things. So I always say for people don't worry about the meditation. Obviously, meditation has its benefits, but maybe it's journaling, maybe it's daydreaming, maybe it's calling up a friend, maybe it's, I don't know, going dancing. Yeah. Right?
It's just hyper presence. It's just really being present
in the moment and doing something that brings you joy. Learn how to change your own state, because nobody else, we can't rely on external factors to do it. We have to know, because I think that that's even the greatest healing. If I look at two of the exact same people, similar medical backgrounds, similar complaints of symptoms and stuff like that, the person who is just enveloped with stress and anxiety every day, because that's their learned behavior, it's almost become their DNA.
Yep.
The progress is minimal. They feel these bursts of motivation, which keeps them coming back, right?
Just enough.
Just enough. Yeah. But then the other person is no, I had the shift I felt what it was like to be in the moment, to shift my state, to, feel all the emotions, because they're not good or bad emotions. They're just emotions, but you have to know how to let the ones that hurt pass, right? So for those people, all of a sudden, the IBS goes away, the bloating, the anxiety, the stress, the worry, the layer of water retention, whatever it is, the constipation, you're letting things go, literally.
You're full of shit.
You're letting it go. So I think that's probably like the most powerful form of healing, and something that I really hope that like all wellness educators focus on moving forward is like the sense of peace, dealing with the inner self, past trauma, personal happiness. I think that's when we can all step up.
I love that you said that, because it's actually funny, and you don't know this because we've never talked about this, but I had a massive breakthrough in my own life the weekend we went away for your birthday. Right. And I've never told you about this. So me and you and Craig and the kids and Ajit and Nita and Ari, we all went away for the weekend, and Bua and all the people were there. It was so funny. It was like a reality show, that Airbnb we were in. And I had this, I had been feeling a lot of stress and anxiety, just around work stuff, around business stuff. And that weekend, remember, we had that pool, and there was no barrier on the pool, and all the kids, for the most part, were big enough to be able to open the door to go out to the pool. And so I was kind of on Ari duty, right? Yeah. And not literally, I didn't have to deal with his poop, but Ari, who at the time is like 18 months old, and so I'm following him around to make sure he doesn't fall in the pool. And what I realized was, at the end of that weekend, when I was coming back into the real world and getting back to work on Monday, I felt no stress or anxiety about work, because I had made something else besides work the center of my universe for the majority of that weekend. And it really landed for me. And you said the word that like really, really activated for me was the word peace, about focusing on peace, is that I realized when I make anything the center of my universe, I have no choice but to be anxious or stressed, because I want to protect it from failing or falling apart, right? Whether it's a relationship or it's my health or it's my business, if it's the center of my universe, then everything in my energy has to go towards that. So the big shift I had that weekend was to say, from now on, the only thing I'm going to make the center of my universe is my own sense of peace and ease.
Incredible.
And asking myself that question, when I get stressed about work, am I making my own peace and ease the center of my universe right now? Yes or no? Loving, non-judgmental question. Am I making, and if it's not the center of my universe, then what can I do in this moment to live in the direction of making that the center of my universe?
And the cool thing about you being with Ari, I think that kids are always the greatest examples, because they're always in the present, right? They're joyful. Their spirit just like ignites out of them.
Yep.
And so, the idea of peace and ease, somewhere along the journey, it's like we lose the idea that the journey can be with grace and ease, and all of a sudden anxiety becomes the new learned behavior, and that's what's normal.
Yep, absolutely. I've actually felt before, and I don't know if you felt this before, but it's like almost like it's irresponsible to have it be easier.
Yeah.
Like I grew up, and it's it has to be hard. If it's not hard work, it's not valuable.
Or what's going to happen now? That was too easy.
Exactly. Waiting for the other shoe to foot, or the other shoe to drop, but the other side of that too, and this kind of gets on my nerves, and I'd love to know what you think about this, but the other side of that too is that I feel like we've gone, so there was like the whole hustle trend, and it's still a trend for a lot of people, hustle. And then there's the polar opposite of like, everything should be in flow constantly. Nothing should ever feel like work. And I think that's one of the reasons that I've rebelled against like surrender and flow and ease. I'm like, fuck you. It takes effort. Like, to build something that matters, it takes effort. So like, how do you balance the like hustle and flow, or do you tend to go towards one side or the other?
This is my biggest work in progress. I think I had a really big awakening after my birthday also about my greatest point of discomfort right now is the fact that I'm out of flow. I haven't done enough of the things to soothe me or bring me happiness, but I also think that those things are changing. As we evolve and grow, there's different types of things that make us happy or put us into our joy spot, right? So like, I could come here and say the cliche answer of schedule it into your calendar, right? No, but it's kind of like karma too. People think that karma is always a bad thing. No, karma can be really great and positive. When we think about this hustle, I don't like the word grind, but when we think about hustle, if you're hustling for your dream, for motivation, then all it is energy in motion. And if you feel out of balance, and it's like, oh, your body's giving you the cues, the symptoms, your body's whispering to you all the time about what it needs, you just have to tune in and listen so that you don't go one way or the other. But this is life, isn't it? Like, anybody who's looking for life to be like this, I just want things to feel good. Things will feel good, but then they won't.
Right.
But then they will again.
Right. And everything's temporary. Everything's transient. From broken bones to ice cream cones, everything's temporary. Nothing lasts.
So when we say like enjoy the journey, enjoy your journey because it's going to be so unique for you. And like just like wellness, one diet, one supplement protocol, one healthy living regime can't be perfect for you as it would for someone else. Like you're so bio-individual and unique. And I think that when you honor that, then you know exactly what you need to stay in a little bit more balance. And I would say like to keep the flow through the hustle, right?
Yeah, and I saw you mention this before, that you said something like our biologies prefer a certain kind of like eating and things like that. Like how do we figure that out without tons of trial and error and like doing all these things?
So I would say for the first 3-4 years of my career as a nutritionist, I was putting everyone on diets. You know, stuff that we knew from the media, stuff that we had studied from science and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is a complete waste of time. I'm putting people on these programs. It might work, it might not. Most of the time it worked temporarily. It was like a Band-Aid, right? No more Band-Aids. So after that, I just started to surround myself with more functional medicine doctors, right? Okay. And so the science as we know today is just like your biology does not predetermine your destiny. And we can actually understand your bio-individuality through your blood labs, through a saliva test, through a stool test. But most doctors don't necessarily talk about this. Yeah. So that's a really good point too when we think about finding flow, because something as little as a nutritional deficiency can completely drain you, right? Any symptom that you have is draining energy from you, right? Something as little as, digestive issues, vitamin D deficiency, it's draining energy from you.
Well, we just found out that I have an iron deficient. I'm an iron deficient anemic. Yeah. And so I'm like, that could be a reason sometimes I feel a little more tired.
Yes.
And so, little things like that can have drastic changes in your productivity and how you feel about life, right?
So if you're looking to optimize anything, I always say optimize the vessel first. Even if you are such an A-type that you're so focused on your career, optimize the vessel first, because this is the only thing that's going to get you there, right? Go to your doctor. You might have to find a new doctor, but ask them for a full spectrum blood lab so that you understand every single thing that's going on. You can also do a genetic test to see what your predispositions are. You can actually turn off the genes that caused, or the markers that cause disease.
Really? So, okay, so is it true? I heard somebody say this somewhere, that like inside of our bodies, we have the markers for every disease possible. And it's a matter of like what we do that either activates it or doesn't. Do you believe in that at all? Or is there truth behind that?
I think I believe in it. Yeah. I would say that the things that are predominant in your immediate family are the things that you're probably predisposed to.
Okay. So guilt, shame, right? All that stuff. Oh wait, those aren't medical conditions. Never mind. Yeah.
But go figure it out. You know, the awareness, but make sure that you're also working with somebody who doesn't ignite fear, right? It's like, here you go. This could be, something that you could look forward to getting in the future. It's like, and if you leave the office thinking, oh my God, I could get, arthritis, I could get cancer.
One more thing to stress about. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Focus instead on everything that you consume, right? Whatever you consume is either going to fuel your health, your happiness in every cell in your body to heal and work for you, or deplete it and take you further away from your goal and your passion, right? But your biology is everything. That's
huge. So I know you have these 3 pillars of health that I really want to talk about. You've actually kind of already mentioned all 3 in passing, but I want to dive deeper into them. But you said a word a few minutes ago that stuck in my head, and it was the word journey. And so because of that, we are going to do a little segment on our show that is called Ask Her About the Time When. And so Ask Her About the Time When is when I go to your friends and family and ask them for the beginning sentence of a story that I can ask you about. And then I don't have any other idea about the story, and you have to fill in the blanks. So what
could go wrong with this?
Nothing could go wrong whatsoever. And this is live. So no, I'm just kidding. So I reached out to Craig, your amazing husband, and it's his birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday, Craig. Much love to Craig. And he told me to ask you about the time you went with your friend to Joshua Tree. So I would love to know what happened when you went. I feel like this would go in 50 different directions, but what happened when you went with your friend to Joshua Tree?
So as I speak of wellness and optimizing your health and your bio-individuality, so I will always do things that my clients ask me about, right? The diets, the foods, the supplements, if I agree with them. And lately, something that's really been on my radar, they're becoming popular, things like psychedelics, right? So we had gone away and we went to Tahoe, and we went on this hike. We got to this magical waterfall, right? dove under the waterfall into the water. I was by myself without the kids, set my intention, just like, you know what, I'm ready for the next step. Let me get rid of anything that's no longer serving me. Show me the signs kind of thing, right? The next morning, my girlfriend, one of my besties, Sammy, calls me up. She's like, oh, there's a free spot in the ayahuasca ceremony happening next weekend. And I was like, I asked for a sign. This is it.
So you just felt it like right away. So had you never been called to ayahuasca before?
Never been called to ayahuasca. Okay. Craig had looked into it. He talked to me about it. However, recently I've studied with a doctor named Gabor Mate. Mm-hmm. Do you know Gabor Mate?
I think actually I do. Yeah, I've heard of Gabor. Yeah.
He's brilliant. He works a lot with childhood trauma and a lot of other practitioners. So he's actually taken practitioners to retreats in, I think it's Peru, where they happen.
Yeah.
And I listened to him speak about the power of ayahuasca to just bring deep healing. I just thought, wow, that really appealed to me, right? Not to mention we're going to be in Joshua Tree outside. We were underneath the stars together in circle with all women. It sounded beautiful.
Yeah.
So here we are, ayahuasca ceremony. And you have the option to choose like the dose that you want on a scale of 1 to 10. But we're all together, and I'm like, if you know me, let's go 10. Let's just 10. Go all in. All in.
There was no like, let me dip my toe in this. No. It's like, let's submerge, let's immerse myself in this ayahuasca journey.
Completely.
Good on you. Okay. And what about your friend? What did your friend pick?
Everyone picked 10 the first time.
Everybody picked 10?
Yeah.
Was this peer pressure or people actually wanted 10s?
I don't know. I hope I had no impact on other people going for 10, but I was a 10 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So, one of the girls, unfortunately started having an experience where she saw herself dying. And this is common with ayahuasca. Okay. The analogy is that you're really dealing with your ego dying, right? So that you can go out and be more purposeful, step into your power. For me, we all set intentions prior to. For me, I wanted to let go, similar to diving under the rainbow to the waterfall, was let go of anything in my body that wasn't serving me, right? So like I knew that I had grown up repressing all these emotions, stuff from my family's divorce, never feeling like I fit in, my heart surgeries, the miscarriages, which I've never talked to you about, 2 miscarriages. And so I was just ready for deep healing, right? So that was my intention. Nothing's happening. People are up walking around. I'm having this beautiful trip. Like the stars are all aligning with lines of chakra colors and beautiful sounds and everything. And really just feeling good. I think at one point I had deep awareness around the fact with my parents that I didn't necessarily come into a relationship that was full of love and passion. But the awareness like, oh my God, that was not my fault. It wasn't my fault that there was so much stress and tension in our house growing up. It wasn't my fault that I always felt like I had to walk on eggshells to make sure everyone was okay. It wasn't my fault. I just
crazy what we take on. We take this stuff on with. I feel you.
Again, like my parents, they never had that intention. They loved me so deeply, probably too much. But that for me was like I wouldn't have ever had that awareness without that moment.
Yeah.
Right? So after I got that out of the way, I was one of the only people, so 1 out of 10 people who did not purge by vomiting, which is what you're supposed to do.
Everybody vomits.
Yeah.
And it's a metaphorical thing, but it's because what's for people that are listening that have no idea what we're talking about, what's the significance of the vomiting, of the purging?
The significance is that the Aya medicine is actually working within the body, and whatever is there to purge, you are expelling from your body, right? And of course, you hear the stories of other people who purge. They call purging, crying nonstop, yawning, going to the bathroom, having a bowel movement, stuff like that. I was just crying, so I would say that my eyes just watered all night. Even if I didn't feel like I was crying, they were just watering, right? So the guy comes around. By the way, they're all like shape-shifting at this point. Like you're tripping out so deep that they're shape-shifting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel safe though overall? You felt safe? Okay.
Oh, this group was incredible. Yeah. So the second round, I did not need a second shot of ayahuasca.
Yeah.
But they're like, do you want to go again? I said, sure. I felt so good at the time. Let's do it.
I mean, how else are you going to wash down the beef jerky? I mean, you have to take another shot of ayahuasca.
So, but then he asked me, do you want to go deeper? Me, I'm a 10. So I'm like, let's do it. Let's go deep. Double 10 and then some. So then I went even deeper, and all of a sudden my intention around healing, you guys, like my hands were just moving over my body, healing here, trauma here, releasing here. And all of a sudden, this might be laughable to some people, I was digging my hands into the earth so deeply. I'm like, oh my God, I'm connected to nature. I'm a healer. I can heal myself the way that nature does. And then I was like, am I just tripping out here? And I'm like, no, I'm a healer. Which I guess I am in my profession.
Absolutely.
But I was like, oh my God, there's the power. We underestimate underestimate our personal power to heal our mind, our body, and instead we're always looking for these external sources to heal us, right? And so here I am, I would swear, like for a couple of hours, my hands were just moving, like more meditation here. You need to have more fun here. Oh yeah, heart is totally okay. More laughter here. I gotta dance more. My stomach needs me to dance.
Wow.
And then I would say the trippiest part, which ties back to what we started about, the guys that were there were walking around, playing music for us and chanting and flutes and stuff like that. They started chanting in Sanskrit. So
Wait, they actually did?
I thought they did. I was like, how do you guys know this? How do you know that Sanskrit chant from when I grew up?
It was the actual one from when you grew up?
Actual one from when I grew up, from the ashram, from when I became a yoga teacher, the one that I chant to my children. Of course, this is my mind working.
And what was the significance of that for you? Like when you look back on that now, the fact that that showed up for you?
Deep ease, and that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And the release of worry, like stop worrying so much about the journey and the body and what's going to happen, and that everything was going to be okay. And then two things. I was tired. I wasn't sleeping enough. Hello, mom with kids, but also I wasn't doing the self-care that I was prescribing to other people. And then I was out of flow. I wasn't having enough fun. Yep. And flow for me doesn't mean like you have to go to retreat. Nobody here has to go away to an ashram to have that retreat. Right. Bring the ashram to the city. But I wasn't drinking my own medicine. Put it that way.
Yeah. You were drinking some medicine.
I was drinking something.
It was a different medicine. I love that though. No, and I think that's so, and I so appreciate you sharing that story, and that's all Craig's fault.
Yeah, totally.
But I love that because I feel like we're kind of in a bubble being in California, especially Southern California, where talk about, of psychedelics and things like that is kind of commonplace. I remember the first time I told my mom that I've experimented with psychedelics, and she's like thinking back to her childhood and LSD and brainstem and spinal tap and all this other stuff. And it was really interesting because my real first experience with psychedelics was I did MDMA for the very first time right after my wife and I split. And I had come here to LA, and I was with a few of our friends, and I didn't really see the reason to take it because I had heard that said, people say MDMA, it's like a heart opener and you'll just feel so much love and so much connection. And I'm like, that's great. And like right now, that's not really my thing. I'm like, I'm trying to heal. I'm to feel devastated that my marriage of, 12 years is over. And I agreed to do it anyways. And I purged, not throwing up, but crying. And I just had this deep, like emotional processing of that breakup. And I did go way deeper with the friends that I was with to a level of depth and connection we had never had before. And that would not have happened had I not had the psychedelics, or if it would have happened, it would have taken maybe years and tons of therapy and all these things. And in one night that happened. So I love that there's so much research being done, and there's MAPS, that's the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, and like all this stuff is becoming more mainstream. So are you feeling more comfortable talking about like psychedelics and the role of healing now because of all that?
Absolutely. About a year ago, forget it. No, I was like, no, food is medicine. Look to your mindfulness, stuff like that. But now, no. I mean, I'll always look for the science, of course. The science is backing it up. I don't think it's right for everybody. Right. I am noticing though, for a lot of people like who are living a lot in their head, right? It's almost like the gateway that's like, okay, open up the gate, let your guard down a little bit so that you can go deeper into that emotion. Yeah. And I think though, you have to walk away knowing that you're going to seek opportunities to do that without the psychedelic, right? Keep the journey and the process going, because I think that honestly, the medicine continues to work afterwards, right? Yeah. That's the whole point of doing it, so that you're not looking to fuel another addiction, or I'm only happy when, I only feel good when. Right. It's like taking the lessons and incorporating them into the learnings every day. Yeah. Right?
It shouldn't be an escapism kind of a thing. It should be an opening to show you what's available to you, and then the work is to see how you can make that available to you on a day-to-day basis without the medication, without the medicine.
For so many people, it's like opening up this gateway or this idea to a possibility that they never had even imagined for themselves before. Yeah. Right? And that's powerful.
That's huge. That is really huge. Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So that's awesome. I'm so happy you had that experience. And again, the big takeaway I get from that is never go do ayahuasca with you, because you're going to make me do a 10. And I'm like, I want to do a 6. You're like, stop being a little bitch. Do a 10. I'm like, when did your voice turn like that, Mona? You used to have a sweet, do a 10, you little fucking wimp. So now I know that about you. Good to know. So you mentioned something though. So going back to these 3 pillars, and it's interesting. I wonder if you're going to add a 4th pillar now of psychedelics, but you have these 3 pillars. So food is medicine, yoga, and meditation. And I'd love to know more about those 3, but but the thing that actually fascinated me the most when I was looking into kind of your work around these pillars is that you don't lead with food necessarily, which I would always think like that's the natural thing. You lead with food. So I'd love to hear about the pillars, but also why not leading with food? What's the alternative there?
Yeah, so isn't it crazy? Like, I'm probably also one of the only nutritionists that doesn't love creating recipes, spending time in the kitchen. I love it when I have the time to do it or create the space to do it. But yeah, it's just not my thing. And I would swear that growing up, my mom tried everything. We tried the food, she tried the supplements, like eat it, it's good for you, drink it, it's good for you was our motto growing up, right? Legit. Because she was so in tune, it's like, oh, this like took the inflammation down. This causes more inflammation, but it wasn't enough. It didn't heal her. It didn't get rid of her pain, right? And what was sad is that throughout the years, we would go back to the ashram, but it got to a point where she couldn't even get down to do the yoga, right? So it has to be multidisciplinary. So food is medicine. Obviously, this is one of the biggest pillars at the ashram, the foundation in Ayurveda. So using what nature gives us to heal. And I still do believe like food isn't like medicine. Food is medicine. It's information for your body, right?
Yep.
However, if you have other things that you're not dealing with, if you're dealing with a predisposition to disease, if you're somebody who's just accustomed to living a level 10 stress and that's just your DNA, that's just how you are, right?
Yep.
Then you have to look at the other pillars. And I would say that the pillars really come from the ashram, right? So outside of food, it's not just yoga. I would say it's movement is therapy. Move your body in a way that you like. Some people love running. Peloton's huge for a lot of A-types right now.
The Peloton is so like,
huge.
it's almost, to me, it's like the fraternity and sorority of it's, no judgment. I think it's a cool freaking piece of tech, but it does feel like the Wall Street or Silicon Valley exercise of choice right now.
You got it.
Yeah.
So what I noticed when I was working as a yoga teacher in Toronto, I was working with like a lot of athletes, professional athletes and CEOs. There wasn't like a one type asana sequence that I could take them through that would bring them release. But I would say that my kind of superpower comes in personalizing it and feeling their energy and like the poses that feel really good where they can like, they get that like deep release, right? And for other people, they find it through dance or Pilates or whatever it is. So like find the movement for medicine that's good for you. And then mindfulness is the journey. Mindfulness, like we talked about it a little bit, but it's really the only thing that keeps you coming back, right? Like if you really decide every single morning that you're going to be selfish and like move you to the number one position in your list of things to do, then all of a sudden the rest just gets easier, right? But what we typically do, and I'm guilty of it myself, is like, oh, I'm busy, kids need this, husband, deadline, clients, so I got to deal with me later, right? Out of flow before ayahuasca. But it's really figuring out how you can incorporate mindfulness into your life. So I try to find these like little hacks throughout the day. So when I make coffee, I'll stand in tree position and I'll just put my hand over my heart and I'll say, I'm so grateful for this moment. I love the smell of coffee, which I do. Or just thank you for this day. Or I'll send energetically, love to somebody. Before I get out of bed in the morning, one of my rituals is also just to like move my hands over my body and just thank it for working all night, for regenerating, for repairing, for healing. We don't think about the fact that our bodies are working for us 24/7.
Insanely.
Our heartbeat has been pumping since we were in our mother's bellies, right? And we just take it for granted, right? I certainly did anyways throughout my heart surgeries. So just the simple gratitude practice, because I think that your body will take you a lot further when you acknowledge it.
Yeah, I love that. I had this conversation with my body recently, and it was actually, I did a full like blood panel. That's when I got the iron deficiency thing, but I got like, the 12 pages of all the things, and I was healthy in all the other areas, which was great. But I remember reading through the results there and then having this moment of talking to my body and saying like, I have put you through some shit in 40 years. I mean, whether it's physically put you through some shit or emotionally, mentally all the things I've put you through, and you keep showing up for me. Like I feel like even as I'm saying it, I'm just like, I really want to have that conversation more often so I don't lose track of that. But if we think about, and not necessarily we did it maliciously, we're well-intentioned, but we put our bodies through a lot of shit mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I think it's a beautiful practice to just be like, wow, you keep showing. You could have given up years ago. I have plenty of pieces of electronics and everything else that give up on me, even though I treat them so well. Those pieces of stupid fucking laptop that I spent $2,000, all of a sudden the monitor stops working. I show up for them and they don't show up for me. My body, even when I don't show up for it, it shows up for me. And I think there really is something, like you were saying, especially if you are a mom or a dad, but I mean, I feel like there's just mom guilt is such a big thing, like taking time for yourself and doing something selfish, like just to even take those small pockets, like you said, and while you're having your coffee, have that kind of internal conversation and have that gratitude for your body and for your life. It may sound trite, but it really is so powerful.
Yeah, and decide that in your household, around everyone's birthday, every single year, you're going to go to the doctor and get a checkup. Not going for a physical and a standard thing. If you have to, find a new doctor through the Institute of Functional Medicine. It's ifm.org, who I love. But decide that you're going to do a full search and understanding on what's happening, what's shifting, and just notice the power that actually gives you for the rest of your year. Yeah.
That's huge.
It is huge.
Well, we mentioned a couple times now your husband Craig, not Craig Mack, but the actual husband Craig. And I was actually looking back, and since it's his birthday, we're going to do a little fun stuff here. I was looking back, and do you know that your very first Instagram post ever is a picture of Craig?
No way.
This is from November of 2012.
Oh, New York.
And this is you, and it's a surprise birthday in New York City, which is hilarious because today is his birthday.
Yeah.
I just love so. But what I would, and I know that he's being tongue in cheek here because he's very funny and he has a dry sense of humor. So this is actually, if you know Craig at all, this is actually a hilarious picture. But I'm just really curious, like looking back even to 2012, which is not 15, 20 years ago, looking where you're at now versus where you were then. What do you really find that you're most proud of, or that you really surprised yourself around to get to where you are now today?
Wow, that's a big one. Definitely the healing piece. I think that there was a period of about, I would say probably 2 decades that I was doing harm to my body, not intentionally, but just doing harm to my body. I didn't realize the impact of, working in the corporate world, of like going out for drinks every single night, staying out too late, not taking care of my sleep, but also like my body at the time, and I hope everybody hears this, my body has started to send me tons of whispers, right? Digestive issues, headaches, inflammation, if it was constipation, anxiety, and then they got louder and louder and louder and louder, and then they turned into a scream, and then I hit rock bottom. And my goal is, I pray that no one else has to go through that, because you don't. Right? Yeah. Listen to the symptoms. Your body's magic. It's sending you symptoms all the time to tell you.
Why don't we listen then? Like, I mean, because it's, like when I finally decided to change what I was doing with my health, and, I was like 330 pounds and all this stuff. And I like to, I wrote in my book about like the day the universe cut me off, like my big wake up call, but that's not truthful. I knew forever, like I knew since I was a kid, like you're bigger than you probably should be. And then it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I felt it. And then I didn't answer the call. So why do you think people ignore that kind of thing when it's so obvious that something feels out of whack?
So when you ask someone how they are, most people, maybe not like in our circle, and you say, how are you? What do they say?
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah, everything's great.
Are you here to live fine?
Yeah.
Or busy? Busy is the new emotion.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm guilty of that one.
So recently, just before COVID shut down, I was giving a conference for a lot of female entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And at one point I said, let's just do an experiment. How many people here suffer from stress, from anxiety, from IBS, from bloating, from gas, from no sex drive, from constipation, loose bowel movements, lack of motivation, anxiety? By the time I was done with this list, every single person's hand was up, right?
This is like every dinner party in LA, by the way. This is how we start every dinner party. We just ask these questions to strangers. How's your stool? Is it solid? No, anyway, sorry.
Well, this is the biggest thing though. Like, these symptoms are all so common today. And just because they're common does not mean that they are normal, right?
They become accepted because they're there.
It's like, yeah, I got that too, right? Women get together, they bitch and complain. It's like, oh yeah, that's me too. Well, okay, what are we going to do about it, right? And I would say one of the biggest takeaways from our table talk is a lot of people don't know that you're supposed to have a bowel movement every day.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yes. Your body's ability to eliminate shit, literally and figuratively, is essential, right? So you should have seen like the list of Facebook comments. That was just blowing my mind. So in terms of my growth, I would definitely say that. But honestly, it was through having children. So in my 20s, when my health was at its worst, I suffered from perimenopause, so I stopped getting my periods. I was actually told that I wasn't going to be able to have kids.
Wow, really?
Yeah, like full on. And I kind of always thought that was like the one thing that I knew I was going to do. So that, again, led to the rock bottom.
Yeah.
So my heart breaks for the women out there who've been given the same message. But after my miscarriage of twins, I became so obsessed with loving my body. I'm like, okay, body, we have to carry a baby. And then I got pregnant with Elijah. My pregnancy with Elijah was literally about loving my heart, loving myself, being open. We can work. I'm going to feed you and soothe you. I'm going to nourish you. I think nourish became my word through my pregnancy with my son. And and so I kept that evolution going. And that was probably the most powerful. And then with my daughter, it was the same thing. It's like, okay, well, this is another lesson for me. What is it going to be this time? And I would say, you know what? She's power. I just felt intuitively she was just like this power female inside me. And I was like, wow, I've never experienced that as a girl. I never felt a sense of being proud to be a girl or a woman when I was younger. I never felt special, right? So I never felt like I was unique on top of not fitting in. And I just thought, wow, what if I let my guard down? What if I went back to being a little bit more playful? What if I went back to the ashram? What if I started to do all the things that feel good that I deny myself from? What if I decide to end relationships with people that, don't fuel me, and I find the people in my life who ignite me, right? And I think that like up until now, it's been this evolution to getting to 40, where like, I just felt this awe. When do we feel awe? Right?
Very rarely, it feels like, yeah. And it's awes around us, but we're just not in tune to look at it because we're so probably weighed down by all the minutia and all the shit that doesn't actually matter that we're not tending to.
You got it. And what's funny is showing the picture of Craig, I think that ultimately that led me back to my husband with like, okay, I think I'm ready to be your wife. Like, I think I'm really ready to show up for you as a friend and as a partner. Whereas before, I'd never seen a great marriage. Like my parents, I'd only ever seen them kiss once on my dad's way to the airport. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it was like, we just went away on this trip, and it was, the experience was like, it was great to meet you again. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And you said, God, there's so much in there that I want to unpack, but there's something you said, especially when you were talking about being pregnant with Elijah. And it's something I think I saw that you actually said on social, and it touched me, was something to the effect of, and I may be butchering the quote, you can't heal a body you don't love.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I felt that in my heart, because being overweight my whole life, I had so much body shame and so many, like just such a lack of self-love. And so that whole practice that you made a part of this whole thing, it feels like that's really transformational, is this whole self-love thing. So would you consider that being a self-love journey, or what would you call that you went on?
I would say that, I actually wrote that in my journal in 2014, being pregnant with him. I think it's, I think people are starting to catch on to it now, but I would say it was ultimately the result of like, this is it, right? I'm either going to make this happen and make some changes, because we know that changing is not easy. It's uncomfortable as all hell. And in my profession, what I love so much was helping other people, fixing other people, encouraging other people, motivating other people. It's like, oh shit, like if I'm really going to be great at what I do, I need to turn this in. And funny enough, it's when all the things started to appear, like the right doctor came into my life. I started noticing the impact on food on my body again, the way that I was living at an ashram, but recognizing that I didn't have to go away. It wasn't about this idea of escapism anymore. It was like, oh no, I can actually create this, right? And God, does it not feel so much better to do all the things in a space of gratitude than not?
Oh, for sure. 1,000%.
Otherwise you're muscling through it. And that was like my old MO. And I was so sick of like muscling and hardcore.
I like the dance move though.
Right?
It was kind of a
the next Mona meme.
Oh my God, if I can get that as an animated GIF, that would be the greatest thing in the world. I love that. And so one thing I'm curious about too, and we were talking about this the other night when we were hanging out with Ajit, and because we were just talking about this Instagram post, it made me think of this as well, is, there are a lot of documentaries and stuff coming out now around social, right? There's The Social Dilemma, and then there's the one that they told us about. I don't know if you watched it yet, but the Agent of Chaos. I started watching that as well. And it's all about kind of social media and kind of the role it plays. And there's a lot of people that say the next big pandemic after COVID is the mental health pandemic, from everybody being in this constant state of stress and fear and uncertainty and running out of hope and all these other things. What is your view on like social media and wellness? Like, you're obviously on social media, it's a part of your business, but how do you make sure that you don't get sucked into all the stuff that they talk about in The Social Dilemma, and that all the stuff we're facing is this mental health pandemic maybe coming soon?
Oh, can we ask this question like repeatedly to other people to bring more awareness, please?
Yeah, we need to.
So pre-COVID, the stat was over 40 million people suffered from anxiety or anxiety-related disorders. Pre-COVID. Wow. Then we hit COVID. We know that anxiety skyrocketed, right? Suicide, depression also skyrocketed. God knows what that number is right now. But I would say to that, like, oh my goodness, how does it make you feel when you go online, right? So I think that there's the one genre of people who will go online and they suffer from comparison, right? I'm not good enough. It causes me stress. I'm not like her. I'm not, whatever it is, right? So obviously that is unhealthy. But why are you on it? You know, I love going on social as a means of education, to be connected to the people that I love. And I think like the true intention to use it for its power is awareness, right?
Yep.
It's not doctrine, it's awareness, right? And I think that what it's often being used for, and once COVID hit too, didn't the internet, like didn't every social media aspect just get too loud?
Oh, it got magnified 1,000-fold.
Oh my God.
I didn't know that it could get that much crazier, and it did.
And in the wellness
away.
world, this supplement, that supplement, immune boosting, do this, take that, right?
Which is kind of irresponsible, right? Like when we were talking about this earlier, like there's a real responsibility for people who are doctors, whether it's functional medicine, naturopathic, whatever it is, there's a real responsibility on the stuff you're sharing out there.
And what I always say too is like, just because something's good for you doesn't mean that it's good for you.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Remember your constitution.
That's a mic drop. I wish I had a mic right. These are expensive, so we're not going to drop these, but we'll give you snaps for it for sure. That's so true.
Yeah. So yes, I do think that for all practitioners and coaches and experts in any field, it is your responsibility to almost put it like a disclosure with what you're commenting on, right? This might not be good for you.
Right. Your mileage may vary.
Your mileage may vary on this one.
Right.
But I also think that you need to educate, especially, you know, as parents or as having siblings, like make the distinction that what is online is not real, right? So like shout out to all the people who do like what the Instagram picture is versus what's not.
Yeah.
But we're still glorifying the what is,
totally.
Right? And I know that even for my profile, right? Like a nice picture of myself that goes up, it's like, it is what it is.
Right.
I try to go more on the information side, but I would say sooner than later, like set up personal boundaries in the same way that you do for your life, for your social.
Yeah.
Okay. So I take regular digital detoxes, not because of comparison, but just for me, it's too noisy. And I'll often catch myself scrolling after like 10 or 15 minutes and be like, oh my God, I could have read like, you know, half a chapter of a book.
Right.
I could have gone upstairs and played with my kids. I could have had a bath. I could have gone for a run. It's like, it's an epic waste of time.
Yep.
What do we want more of? We want more time.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And more valuable, purposeful, intentional time.
You got it.
Yeah. This is the rule that I try to live by as much as possible, and to varying levels of success, is that I try to create more than I consume. Right. So social media is great if you want to create, if you want to share, and sharing doesn't mean you have to be a teacher, but sharing parts of your life or things that you're joyful about or whatever it is, that's fine. Like, but create instead of always consuming. And if you're going to consume, be intentional about your consumption.
You got it.
As much as possible. And that also means, and this is something that I originally heard from a dear friend of mine who you also know, Amanda Bucci.
Yes.
And she was saying one time, I think it may have been during COVID actually, if there's somebody that you follow on social that's triggering you, follow them. Like it's okay. Just do it. It's because there's this thing, and there's a lot of different areas, which we don't have time to go into today, but there's a lot of different areas where people, it almost becomes, I feel like, mental masturbation, that people are looking for things to work on. And like, no, I need to keep following this person because I need to see their stuff and then work on whatever's coming up for me. And great, do the work on yourself. But also, like, sometimes you don't have to do any more work. Like, you can just kind of live life. How many
courses that people bought during COVID?
Oh,
right?
So many.
But I want to go back to what you said though too, because at the same token, if you're on social and you get joy from it and you like seeing what's going on, you're inspired and motivated and stuff like that, for the people who do inspire you, whether you know them or not, drop them a comment.
Yeah.
If this is going to be our new age of, you know, interacting together, then let's interact in a really positive way.
Yep.
I'll never forget on our first date, you said to me, you know, my intention is to leave somebody happier than when I first met them.
Yep.
Right? And that has always stuck with me. And I just thought, okay, well, I'm not going to see you in person necessarily anymore, but I can do this through social. So now I would say I actively comment on the people who do give me inspiration or insight.
I love that. That's so good. Yeah. And that's always been that's been my one-line business plan for years now, is to leave everybody I meet with at least 5% more joy than I found them. And actually the flip side of that is really that I want to leave everybody I meet with at least 5% less suffering than I found them. That doesn't play as well publicly. People don't want to focus on suffering, but that's what I know to be true for me, is that I really selfishly, I hate suffering and I hate seeing other people suffer. And so I feel like all of us, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, whether you're in this, you know, the healing profession nutrition or in wellness or in coaching or whatever else, I think we can all bring that into the world and say, when I have interactions with people, what's the thing I would love to leave them with more of or less of when our interaction is done? And I feel like if that's our frame for in-person, like in real life stuff or social media stuff, it's a little more intentional on how we create and we consume.
Well, I even think the word though, anxiety, isn't it just like an umbrella word?
It really has become, yeah.
Right.
That's and it's part as opposed to like digging in more. So what would you have us do instead of using that as a blanket term? Like when you say that.
Ask yourself what you're really feeling, right? You have anxiety for a reason, right? So what are you lacking in that moment, or what are you fearful of in the moment? And I would say, like from NLP, neurolinguistic programming, when we deal about this vary of emotions, ultimately your fear and anxiety all comes back to, your stress and anxiety all comes back to fear and suffering, right?
It's so true. Yeah, I have another friend, a guy called Christian Michelson. Shout out Christian. There's like 47 people we shout. But this is great. This is the power of having a network of people. Like I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to remember what the smartest people in the room say. He said something that has stuck with me so much. He said, all fears are fears of feelings. If you're not afraid of your feelings, then you're already into the healing process. There's nothing you have to actually do. And so that's become a practice for myself too. When I'm feeling something, let's say it's uncomfortable, right? Anxiety, stress, depression, whatever. But if we just label it as an uncomfortable feeling instead of having it be this, blanket term, I do start asking myself, like, can I have this conversation with myself where I say, hey, fear, I see you. Hey, anxiety, I see you. Hey, stress, I see you. And I'm not afraid of you. Like, you're allowed to be here. I'm not going to force you out. You don't have to leave. You can leave whenever you want to, but I'm not afraid of you. It doesn't mean I love you. It doesn't mean I'm not going into a place where I'm like, oh my God, when fear shows up, I'm just so happy because I have more work to do. But it is a thing where I can be like, I'm not afraid of you. And it's okay.
And that's liberation, isn't it? Like you're processing emotion instead of saying, I'm going to deal with this later. And you're also understanding at a deeper level what your actual needs are.
Yes.
Right? So the corporate world for me taught me a lot of lessons. I was terrified of speaking in front of groups of people.
Were you really? Because you're so natural at like connecting and speaking.
There's this thing called rescue remedy, that's like homeopathic thing.
Yeah.
So I did my first presentation and first time in front of like 250 people. The whole bottle was empty. I was like,
you're just taking shots of it.
But the point of this is, I recognize that the feeling, it was never the public speaking itself. It was the fear of what they were going to think of me. What were they going to say after? What if I wasn't good enough? These like all false illusions that I was labeling as, fear of public speaking. No, I actually really liked it. I got a buzz. It like really turned me on. I liked stepping into that. I liked inspiring people.
Yeah.
So that means that it's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So watch what you're labeling your emotions as.
Yeah, and when it comes to that kind of thing as well, I remember there was a meme that I saw that I thought was so funny, and it said, dance like nobody's watching, because they're not. They're all looking at their phones. And so when you think about that, like when you're on stage, like, oh my God, they're all going to judge me. They're all thinking about their kids and the boss and the thing, and they don't care at all. And all they really want, for anybody who does want to be in this kind of profession of speaking or coaching or whatever, they just want to have some kind of reprieve and have something that's at least a little helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you don't have access, especially in physical proximity to the kinds of people that we are super blessed to have in our kind of everyday lives, you want to find that somewhere. And so like us as content creators or whatever it is that we do, we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be polished. We just need to share something that's at least a little bit helpful. And I think that's huge.
And people want to be seen and they want to be heard. Right?
Absolutely.
And I say this to all my clients, like, I really see you. I really see you today. Will, I said that to him, teaching yoga.
Yeah.
Like, I see you today. You just show up and you're so present for yourself, right? When I think about this analogy, when you go to the doctor's office, when you're going for healing, you're in there for, 15 minutes. They don't see you at all. They see a piece of paper, right? They see your symptoms. So they give you a Band-Aid solution. And it's like, no, well, true healing involves seeing you, right?
I remember the first time I had a doctor that I really felt saw me, and it was actually when I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina. He was a younger guy. He was probably had like late 30s and like really forward thinking, very progressive. And I had been on antidepressants on and off since I was a teenager. I mean, I remember at one point being 20 years old, and I tried to get off Lexapro, and I was at a very high dose of Lexapro. And when they tried to take me off of it, even weaning me off of it, I remember walking down the hallway at my job and slamming into the wall because my equilibrium just totally went off. And I was just on these things for years and years and years, starting from when I was like 15, 16, on and off until I was like in my early 30s. And I remember going to this doctor, and he was a new doctor for me, and he looked at my chart. He goes, so you've been on these antidepressants for a long time? I go, yeah. And he goes, and you've switched different ones, different prescriptions, different dosages, and over the past like 15, 20 years? And I said, yeah. He goes, do you want to stop taking those? I was like, no doctor's ever asked me that. Yeah, nobody's ever asked me that before. And there was something about that moment where you could tell he saw me. He's like, I get that this is your default life. Would you like to continue living by default or by design? And that moment I was like, yeah, I definitely don't want to be on these things at all. And that's when I got off of them. And it was really interesting. I don't think I ever told you this, but I actually I did like the weaning off thing and everything. I actually ended up getting off of them probably a month before my marriage ended. And so I was off of them, and then this hit, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I can handle this. I think I'm going to have to go back on the medication again. I don't think there's any way that I can do this. And I'm so grateful that I relied on my tools. I relied on my community. I relied on all these things. And I didn't go back to being on them again because I never realized how much they screw with you. Now, I am also not saying that there's no scenario where people shouldn't be on them. And it's actually funny enough. So of course, because everything goes back to hip hop. Did you ever watch the show, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction, the Letterman? So it's Letterman's newer show on Netflix where he's interviewing people. It's a really great show.
I've seen one actually.
It's really, really cool. He's like in a theater and he's had like Obama and Jay-Z.
I saw the Obama one.
Yeah, the Obama one was so great. So he had Kanye on there, and I'm somebody who, like, Kanye's first album, it's like gospel. Yeah. Everything else, I'm like, meh. Yeah. And then he got weird and he got all Kanye and meh. He's just meh for me. So he's on the show and he's talking about his bipolar and about all these medications that he was on. And he mentions at one point, he said, yeah, and then, I finally got off the medication. And the audience starts clapping. And Kanye does something that I never would have expected. He kind of turns to the audience and says, I'm not really sure why you guys are clapping. There's nothing to celebrate necessarily if somebody's not on medication. If they need it, they should be on it. And it was the first time I've had respect for Kanye since like 2002. So it was really amazing to see. But I think it's good to note there are some situations where that's a great thing to have, and there are other situations where there are tools that you can lean on.
Absolutely. And let me be clear about that too. Like, I work with a lot of doctors, and there's patients who need medication.
Yep.
Right? Is there a way to just like monitor as symptoms change and monitor doses and stuff like that? Yeah, but you definitely have to have a doctor that's open to that, right? Same with me. No doctor has ever asked me if I wanted to be off beta blockers at all. My mom looked at me one day. She's like, you are not yourself. This is not you. And you're like, right.
Yep.
Like, just living in a blur. So yeah, people do medication as a gift. It's just when it's abused or when it's used as a Band-Aid solution,
right,
that we get into trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, we're going to shift gears now.
Okay.
So there's another segment of the show. It's called the mixtape of the mind. A mixtape of the mind is where we take a lyric from a hip hop song and we see where it applies in our actual lives. Okay, so today, courtesy of Jay-Z in the song You Don't Know. Do you remember the song You Don't Know? It was from, I think it was from the Black Album, maybe from the Black Album. We'll put a link to it in the show notes so you can see. It's like such a freaking banger. I listened to it like 5 times before you got here. I should have had it playing when you got here. But he has a line in the song that I freaking love. And the line is, put me anywhere on God's green earth, I'll triple my worth. All right, put me anywhere on God's green earth, I'll triple my worth. I think it's actually the last line of the song. Put me anywhere on God's green earth, I'll triple my worth. To me, when I hear that, I think creativity, I think innovation, I think resourcefulness, I think reinvention. And so I'm curious for you, like, where do you feel like you've had the biggest level or biggest moments of reinvention, where it felt like you were just dropped somewhere new on God's green earth and you had to make it work for yourself?
Well, when you get a phone call from Will Smith, that would do it.
Yeah.
Right out of the baby bubble, literally at a point in my life where I was like, what am I doing? What am I going to do? Am I creating impact with my personal practice? But my mantra every day was, how can I help and serve more? How can I help and serve more? How can I help and serve more? And then Will Smith legit called my cell phone. And so 2 days after I got the phone call, I got a call from the producers of Red Table Talk saying, Mona, Will loved you. We want you to come be on set. He wants you to work with the whole family. I thought, great. I'm going to be behind the scenes. This is awesome. Can you be camera ready with us on set Saturday morning?
Whoa.
I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, this sounds great. Just like put on my auto drive. We were on an RV trip at that time with the kids.
Yeah.
So I left the house with nothing at all. Flip-flops, casual dresses, showed up to San Francisco, bought the dress, got my hair done. The morning that we aired, I hopped on a flight, flew to Burbank, went to the Equinox, got dressed, steamed my dress in the steam room.
No way.
And then took an Uber to be on set where I met Will and the family, cameras rolling. Pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Right? So that was one of them. And really, someone like Will, who doesn't love Will Smith?
It's
you know
amazing.
what I mean? Greatest gift. I'm forever grateful, obviously, for whatever I did for that. But in looking at someone like that, recognizing that he wasn't any different. You know what I mean? he wasn't born as Will Smith, the, entrepreneur, actor, rapper, business mastermind that he is. He worked for it.
Yeah.
And he created himself, and he created his life. And he did a lot of it. Like, if you hear his story, there's a lot of like pain in the background. He did it despite it all, right? So he overcame all odds and built who he is today. And what you see is what you get, by the way, with him.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, like, I can really do that too. And I think that in our world, so many people look at us or as other leaders to inspire them or hold them up on a pedestal, instead of like, no, what they're trying to teach us, what we're trying to tell is like, no, use this to elevate, use this to rise, right? Yeah. So in that moment, I was like, all right, it's time to level up. I need to serve more, right? And I would say the second thing, and I think I've shared this with you, is being on set with Dr. Mark Hyman, one of my greatest mentors, right? Yeah. Also, dream come true, pinch me moment on the second episode. But also it was just like a profound realization of, oh yeah, I can just be me. I'm not a doctor.
Yep.
I'm not going to speak like Dr. Mark Hyman, right? And so I think that was like the lesson to open up the gateway. Is like, the lesson isn't behind this world of nutrition and science, eat this, do this, looking at my Instagram page for like all of these tips. It's like, no. Lead with your heart a little bit more. Give the science when it's needed. Share practical advice that people can use and tangible things that people can apply every single day into their lives, right? Then the grass did get a lot greener.
Yeah. Well, and that goes full circle to what you talked about in the very beginning about like self-expression, like, and really giving yourself permission. It's so crazy. I say this all the time, that I say that as coaches or whatever, that we're in the PR business, but PR stands for permission and reminders. And that's all people really need. And like the fact that you gave yourself permission to step into that, because if anybody watches you on Red Table Talks, they will think that like, oh, that's just what you do. You're so natural and you're so in your power and you're so all these things, but you didn't necessarily feel that way a decade or a decade and a half or 2 decades ago. So it's absolutely possible to step into that. And it's not, and you didn't become that, you remembered that you were that, is my feel on that. Would that be true for you?
I remembered that I was that, and I realized that my hard work was all leading to this. So when we get caught in the work, right, or the energy that it takes, we talked about that, or the hustle, we never really focus on what the rewards are going to be. And I think that, I think it's just a cliche expression to just like, the gifts are going to arrive, the gifts are going to arrive, the gifts are going to arrive. And they certainly did. It's like, oh yeah, everything will always pay off, right? Yep. And maybe that's the beautiful way of looking at karma, right? Yep. Whatever you want more of in your life, do more of. Whatever you want to receive, give more of.
Yeah, bring that to life, as opposed to requiring life bring that to you. And when you bring that to life, life says, oh, that it's like the Netflix algorithm, right? Like if you watch a comedy, Netflix is like, oh, you like comedies? Well, here's more comedies. If you accidentally watch a horror movie, it goes, oh, you like horror movies? Here's some more horror movies. So yeah, it's showing up that way. And I don't know if you remember this, and I hope it's okay that I share this, but you and I and one of your friends went to dinner at Cafe Gratitude. You remember this night, right? And we were having this conversation, and this is after you had done Red Table Talk, and it was happening, and you were kind of thinking, like you were saying, like, I hope this is, I'm on the right path, and that I hope this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And literally, as Mona says this, Jada and Willow walk into the restaurant, and you have your back to them, so you didn't even see them. And so I'm listening to you. It's literally within you say the thing, and then I look up, and there they are, and I'm like, hey, Mona,
isn't that wild?
Turn around.
But here's that thing, and I work a lot with my clients on this idea of vibration, and I hear you, like, vibration sounds so woo-woo and so LA, but no, it's backed by science. Like, your vibration is everything. When you feel aligned in what you need to do and the things that you're doing, you're feeling fulfillment and you're going after it, whatever it is, that's when synchronicity happens. That's when creativity happens. That's when inspiration happens. But guys, nobody else can create it for you.
Right.
You have to create the paradigm in your house. Right? I can create the feeling of the ashram in my home. So that's what I did. I set up the reminders in my house that I needed. I have the notes. I listen to the music that brings me joy. I have my rituals. So look at your rituals and notice whether they set you up for the synchronicity.
I love that.
Feeling in flow.
I totally agree with that. The vibration thing, and I talk a lot about, or I think a lot about frequency, and the easiest way that my brain can wrap itself around this so that it feels real to me is that, like, I'm a big Drake fan as well. For whatever people people that hate Drake, yeah, you T-Dot in the house. If you're, by the way, if you're a Drake hater, you can F all the way off and you can unsubscribe and then resubscribe because that was dumb that you unsubscribed to begin with. It's very, very powerful. I just, remember the dude that was like, leave Britney alone. I feel that way about Drake. Leave Drake alone. Yes, I get he was a little wimpy paraplegic on the TV show. But my thinking is like, my very favorite Drake song in the world is playing on the radio somewhere right now in the world. And if I knew the radio station to tune into, it would be playing, it'd be waiting for me. But if I'm running all around, not tuning into that frequency and then either complaining or wishing that I could hear the Drake song, that's on me. It's not a shame or blame thing, but it's just like hey, given the conditions of the game that I'm playing right now, what do I want to create? And I had this moment, I remember where this really hit home for me. I was in Australia at the end of last year. And we went to a mall, like a shopping mall kind of thing, or a big mall. And it was had the parking garage that goes underground. And so we went like 8 levels deep underground, right, to park. It was crazy. Yeah, I'm from Florida. There is no underground anything. It's just swamp. So anything underground is weird. But we go all the way down. And then when we leave the mall and we're driving back up this kind of upward spiral, which is beautiful because life is kind of a liberated circle, an upward spiral. And I start hearing a song coming on the radio, but it keeps like coming in and out. Right. And it wasn't until we continued making forward motion, continuing going upwards. We didn't know necessarily when it was going to happen, but the more we got to the surface, the clearer the song came in. And so that was really a beautiful reminder for me to like, if you hear the song, if you hear the whisper, if you hear the call, just keep going in that general direction until it gets more clear. You don't have to know. I couldn't tell what song it was as we were driving. I would hear a note here, a note there, a high note. I didn't know who it was or what the song was. But the more we went up and went up and went up, it became super, super clear. And so I try to keep that in mind for myself when I'm doing something like this show. And I'm like, oh, I have this vision. I needed to be this. I needed to be that. It's like, well, wait a second. Like Mona showed up in my life and is an amazing human being who I love so much. Let me have a conversation with her. And I'm going to keep listening for the song and keep pivoting and twisting and turning as I need to until the thing becomes clear. And so that's kind of been my reminder for me around that stuff.
And that's your intuition, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be a class when we're little, like how to trust your intuition?
There really should be.
And this is what I'm actually loving, this whole like gut microbiome trend right now. Like, can we all acknowledge the fact that there's an ecosystem of like bugs and bacteria and parasites and everything that live inside of us right now?
Yeah,
right?
tell me, can you talk a little more about, because I've heard the microbiome stuff, and I know there's like, poop tests and stuff you can do to check on your microbiome and all that.
Totally.
What's like the layman's Fisher-Price 101 on microbiomes?
Yeah. Okay. So gut microbiome, a lot of doctors will say it's the root to all health, right? When we think about our happiness, there's something called the gut-brain axis. So if you think about being stressed or anxiety, if you're somebody who has to run to the bathroom when you get nervous, like it's your brain speaking to your digestive system that you got to run to the bathroom, right? It's that powerful.
Yeah.
But the communication goes both ways, right? We don't listen to the communication from here. Oh, bloated today? Oh, that's okay. Deal with you later. Burning sensation? Sure, pop this medication right now, right? But I think that once you start to honor that with, simple things, getting enough sleep, laughter, eat the rainbow, like a full spectrum diet of whole foods that have high vibration. They come from the earth, right? Drinking enough water, having activities that soothe you. These are all things that bring peace to our gut microbiome. Getting enough fiber is also really, really key. So always start there. And if you really just tune into this, start tuning into like, what is your gut telling you today? What do you need, right? It's not your head that's answering. I'll always say that you have 3 brains, the one in your head that you think with, the one in your heart that you feel with, and the one in your gut microbiome that really guides you. So turn on the intuition of your gut.
I've been told that men have a 4th brain. But
yeah, they do.
That's not the one we're talking. We're not talking about that
brain. But you made me think of something with frequency and exercise that I do with a lot of my clients is I'll ask them what they're tuned into, right? And I kid you not, with every single person to this date, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2 athletes, it all comes back to an unresolved emotion of the past, right?
Ooh.
So if you think about you being dialed into a radio station, right, or different frequencies around you, frequency of your parents, the kid from grade school that made fun of you, the person that you never asked out on a date, the boss that laid you off, like all of these experiences, conversations, and emotions that have affected you, right? You know how you remember something that it's like it happened a long time ago, but you remember it so clearly like it's just happened in the moment? The frequency to that memory is high. Do you not think it's going to deplete you of energy and kind of like be this voice at the back of your head that's preventing you from moving forward? It's always pulling you back.
Yeah.
So if you have to, like, make a list of the things where the frequency might be too high on areas of your life that aren't serving you, And you can go through a visualization process of like literally turning down the volume on a dial to turn down the frequency of all of those things that could be affecting you.
Yeah. That's a really powerful practice. I love that. I love visualizations like that kind of bring the tactile world. Because at least maybe it's just the way my brain works. But when you say like literally turn the dial, not like, watch it evaporate through a waterfall, which can be great for people as well. But for me, like I never connect to that. But when you say like turning the dial, I can totally see myself literally turning a dial down. That would make total sense to me. That's all. Okay. I have to definitely try that. That's amazing. Tonight. Yeah. I'm going to do all these things tonight. Okay. So, a big question I have for you that I'm really, really curious about, since you've done work with my future wife, Julianne Hough, and shout out to Julianne, like shout out. Like my address is going to be in the show notes, my phone number as well, but it's just for you. Hashtag Julianne Hough. But I'm just curious, if you were going to be, because I know you're about movement and moving energy in your body, if you were going to be on Dancing with the Stars, who would you want to, and you would of course also be a star, but what star would you like to have as your partner and why?
Ooh. Well,
Craig, turn off the show, Craig, for just a few minutes.
Bradley Cooper, obviously.
What? I mean, Bradley Cooper, Nuncio, you're like, yeah, obviously. I mean, of course, we all want Bradley Cooper. What is it about Bradley Cooper for you besides his rugged good looks, his charm, his personality, and all that stuff?
Like, he's just believable, right? And then he pulls out the French, and I feel like with the singing, and then his last movie with Lady Gaga, I was like, wow. Powerful stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think any actor who can really like evoke emotion within you is really a trigger. Who else would I want to outside of that? I would say probably Pharrell.
Okay, so why Pharrell? I love Pharrell, but why?
Fun and just in terms of music. So music really gets me, right? So he, like, whenever you look at credits for videos and songs, he's often like the writer or the producer or something. Like, I would just love to get in his mind. I saw him in Toronto perform with his band. What was his band?
Nerd. N-E-R-D.
Yeah. And he was just so cool. Like, just super, super cool. I'm not a cool dancer. I will totally do it, but yeah. And like one of my dreams, you know the Missy Elliott video where all the kids have the dance off?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Legit dream.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah.
We got to make this happen for you. We got to get a bunch of little kids to stage around. You guys can all be in like velour tracksuits.
We would probably do that song on Dancing with the Stars.
That would be, and we can get Missy for that too. I'm sure Will is like directly connected to her. We get Missy in the mix. That would be friggin' amazing. That is, that's awesome. You know, it's funny about Pharrell. Do you know how old he is, by the way?
I think he's young. I would say he's like our age. No?
He's not.
No way.
So do you remember the song?
Yeah.
All I want to do is a zoom, zoom, doom, and a boom, boom. He produced that.
No way.
That song's like 73 years old.
Rex and Effect.
Yeah. It's Rump Shaker. And so he was like 19 when he produced that song. That song, I'm pretty sure, came out in like late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
so he's got to be late 40s, early 50s. The guy looks like he made a deal with the devil. That's all that happened.
Yeah.
That's all that happened.
Right.
Okay, so your threesome is Bradley Cooper and Pharrell Williams. Good to know. Okay, good to know. Are you a fan of the show? Do you watch Dancing with the Stars?
I do. Yeah.
I've never watched it before.
I'm not like religiously watching it, but yeah, I think it's just so beautiful. Anybody who can like train their body to move that way. Oh, and I've worked with so many, like whether they're an athlete or a dancer, somebody who works with movement, my mind is just blown. It's anything
to me. Anything that's like anything that's mastery. Yeah. I love watching, whether it's like martial arts or it's dancing or it's acting or it's singing or it's like anything like that just absolutely blows my mind. And I'm also the type, do you watch America's Got Talent at all?
I have.
Okay. So I am, and I'm totally fine admitting this because, vulnerability, Los Angeles, all this stuff.
Yeah.
I cry at that show all the time.
And
it's crazy because it's seeing people that you don't expect to have a level of mastery at something, who also don't necessarily believe that they have a level of mastery, that say, you know what, my ego is less important in this moment than my feeling of self-expression. And it's beautiful to watch that. You
know what the best moment of that show is? Is often at the end where it's like that pause before people applaud or smile, and then everybody does, and you see their eyes like, I was received, I was heard, I was seen. Oh my God, I am good at this. And then you just want to cry. It's like, yes.
That you nailed it though, because that's the second time you said that now about being seen, and that's another example of like really, this is it's self-expression, and it's really like this is, I think, the best stories, and I'm obsessed with storytelling. I just love storytelling in general, and thank you, I appreciate that. And there's something about storytelling, the real power in storytelling, I think, especially when we tell our own personal stories, like when I share my own personal story of weight loss or the divorce or whatever it is. it's not about me. It's about people finally getting to have their own experience validated.
Yes.
It's about people finally, sometimes for the very first time in their lives, they're meeting themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that's what happens in America's Got Talent as well. Like they're finally having their experience validated. Like all the hard work, all the doubt, everything else, it was worth it. And I feel like the same thing goes with health. It goes with relationships.
Oh my gosh,
it's like
it's
crazy.
funny. A lot of people reach out to me after hearing my story, which I'd never shared, by the way, prior to my heart surgeries.
Really?
Yeah, never.
And why was that?
Because I was in my 20s and I had heart surgeries. I didn't want people to see me as being sick.
That's
How could I be a
so
nutritionist if I was sick?
And that's beautiful, because that goes back to this whole, I don't know if you've heard this before, they say you can learn more from a recovering alcoholic than somebody who studied alcoholism.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's your story. It's your life that you're living your message.
So when someone calls me now and they're like, yeah, I get these heart palpitations. I don't know why. I'm like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
That is amazing. I love that. God, I could talk to you all freaking day. Okay. So one of the things that we do here as well, and that we're going to be doing, this is the very first episode, so you get to be the first person to do this, is that you have already made a mark on my life in so many ways, way before this interview ever happened. And I'm just so grateful to know you and to call you a friend. And I love you so much. And I'm going to make you make an official mark on my life, because you are going to sign this white pillow. And these are going to be pillows that we have all of our guests sign. So I would love for you to autograph this pillow. And while you do, I'm going to ask you kind of our final question for today. And it's really this, you've made a mark on my world. You're making a mark on my pillow. And I'm just really curious, like in the short amount of time, relatively short amount of time we have on this planet, what is the thing you really want to make a mark on? Like if there's something that you can't solve during your lifetime, but you are damn fucking sure going to make a dent in it, what is it that you want the world to have more of or less of before you leave this planet?
This is the most perfect question for me today, because I feel like I'm going through another evolution. Our food industry, how we're nourished. So during COVID, I tried to make a garden on my back deck. My mom had an amazing garden growing up. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. The tomatoes have died, basil's like brown. I don't have the green finger, right? Yeah. But when I think about our food industry, when I look at the food delivery program that's at my son's school, and the children are being fed mac and cheese that doesn't freeze, and non-fat, non-organic milk that's getting delivered every single day to our youth, and we're wondering why they're suffering from ADD and ADHD, all of these imbalances that weren't even around when we were little, when our parents were younger, right? Mm-hmm. It's the manifestation of, again, like what our nutrition is, right? If we're going to heal at any capacity, we have to look at how we're being nourished. Mm. And I will always say that self-care starts in the kitchen, but half of us have no clue what to do there. Yeah. Right? So the food industry in LA, so what I've been doing lately is just getting more involved with our farmers. Right?
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I want to know how food is grown. I want to know why there's so many farmers in California, of all places, who can't keep their farms up and running, who have lack of access to resources. I want to know, most people, when you go to the farmer's market, have you ever thought about the amount of steps that it's taken to get to the farmer's market? From the time that the seeds were planted, the harvesting, the watering, the everything, it's an incredible amount of energy that goes into this process. Yeah. And yet we never really hear the success stories from farmers, do we? Right?
That's so true. And they've been affected big time with COVID.
100%.
Huge.
And aren't they really our healthline workers, right?
Yeah.
Healthcare workers?
They really are. They're front line.
Front line, right.
Wow.
So I would say, I'm kind of on this mission to get more involved in the school programs for feeding children, but also working with farmers. So creating some sort of a dent in our food system.
I love that. Oh God, that's so good. We need that so badly. Okay, so what are, besides that, what are you up to in the world right now? What are you excited about? What are you working on? What are some of the cool things that are in your world right now, besides being an incredible entrepreneur and mother and wife and friend and all those incredible things? What else is up for you?
Yeah, so outside of family, so nutrition, all my personal clients is the biggest thing, but I would say launching our Jicama business. So we launched Jicama, so it's a functional beverage company that's based on the gut healing benefits of the superfood Jicama. Also in love with our farmers there.
Official beverage of Coachella in 2019, which is beverage. Like how the F, like that's huge.
Yeah, we were the #1 selling drink after water.
That's incredible.
Both weekends. Yeah. So we were supposed to be back there this year. That didn't happen. So now we're getting a little bit creative with how we're going to go to market. We have 3 different flavors of beverages that we're going to do an online kind of direct to consumer. I'm still going out for funding for that, which is like my God, it's like I'm going through my own personal MBA right now.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And then,
and jicama, for people that don't know, it's a root vegetable that's not typically associated with being something sweet or delicious.
No, and it's not pretty. Like if you go look at a picture, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
But it's an idea that I had. Jicama has been on my clients' meal plans forever because it's a prebiotic food. Prebiotics feed the good bacteria in your gut, optimize gut health. It's high in water, high in vitamin C. If you ask the Mexican community, it's been like, oh yeah, my grandma used to give me jicama juice when I had a sore tummy, or my mother used to use it on her skin. And so we want to bring that love affair back, and we mixed it with sparkling water, so it tastes really, really good.
Tastes delicious. I'm not even a fan of like sparkling things, usually sparkling beverages. It's amazing. What's the watermelon one? The
spicy watermelon.
Spicy watermelon. That was my favorite.
A little bit of kick.
So freaking good.
Yeah, so we're meeting with some great investors for that, and I work with this. I guess what would I call him? He's not my promoter. He's been like just really great of service in terms of helping get my book off the ground. So come January, I'm going to work on that. And
I'm
just get
so
my
excited for your book.
Oh, yes. Stuff like that, yeah.
That's just, you have so much going on, so much amazing stuff. And I'm sure it's a great way for you to also practice your own tools to make sure you're staying in balance and living that kind of more meditative lifestyle. And
yeah, it's being driven by purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Being driven by purpose more than anything else. And that's what makes it okay.
That's huge. I love that.
Otherwise, like, why else are we here?
What the hell is the point?
There's no purpose. What's the point?
Absolutely. Well, you are on fire and on purpose. And where can people find you if they want to continue the conversation, follow all your stuff? Where can they find you? Where's the best places to follow you?
So definitely on Instagram. That's my platform of choice. Come say something. I love the idea of building community and stuff like that. So Mona Sharma, or at my website, monasharma.com. I've got some free downloads there and stuff like that people can check out. I've got some free meditations coming, guided visualizations, which people like you could probably use tonight.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's all coming down the pipeline.
That is awesome. We'll put links to all that and the Jicama Instagram as well to follow that, because some great stuff on there. Guys, if you've liked this episode, then you're a moron, because you should love it, because Mona is absolutely incredible. So please follow her on all the different channels, because she's absolutely amazing. Mona, thank you so much for being here. I love you.
So
I love you
so
much. Thank you.
I can't wait to see who else is going to sit here. Thank you so much for having me here for
They
the first one.
got big shoes to fill coming in after you.
Thanks, babe.
Love you, girl.
Love you too.
So Mona, as you know very well, I'm a sock fanatic. I was very torn today. So it was either going to be avocado or Biggie.
Is that Biggie?
It is Biggie.
That's Biggie.
Yes. So I did Biggie. It was, like I said, it was going to be avocados or Biggie, but for you, it's Biggie. So, but what I also want to do is I actually got this idea in a way from a coach that I know, and you have to go to his house. You have to fly to him in Arizona for coaching sessions. He doesn't do Zoom. He doesn't do phone. You have to go to his house and like for all of your sessions.
I like it.
So I know people that have coached with him from the UK, and they actually have to fly to Arizona every 2 weeks to have a session with him. But what he does is he puts a flag out on the flagpole in front of his house that is specific to his client coming in. And so the country they're from or whatever it is, like he puts it up there. And so I was like, I want to do something like that for me with socks. And so I have gotten you some special socks that made me think of you. This particular one is French fries and broccoli fighting each other.
The perfect meal.
They're jockeying for position here. And maybe they're not fighting. Maybe they're just loving each other. And they're saying, hey, let's get together and do some fun stuff. So this is my gift to you. Some fun socks that I hope that you will wash your car with.
Hello, balance.
It's balance, right?
Wash your car with. You don't think I'll wear these?
I actually do think you will wear them.
You know me.
I absolutely
won't wear these.
Or Indy and Elijah now have some sock puppets.
They'll be like, Mommy, where's mine?
I'm going to get them some.
Call Uncle Jason.
I'm going to get them some for sure. So I hope you enjoy those. And
I love them. This is balance, broccoli and fries. One of my favorite meals, I'll be totally honest.
I actually probably eat more fries than broccoli, but that's. But we're going to change that. We are going to change that, and I hope you enjoy those.
Thank you, love.
Awesome. Thanks, bro. All right, let's move this thing up.
Okay, you take it with my
Really good signature. That's all I got for you today, folks. If you love this episode, please make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to it on. Give us a 5-star review and a rating. So helpful for us, especially starting this podcast. Give us a great review if you love the show. Tell all your friends about us. Screenshot this and post it on Instagram and tag me in it so I can send you some love back. DM me with any of your feedback or any questions, and let's keep ruining shit together. Sending you guys so much love and cannot wait to see you again super soon. Peace.